All right, hey, like and subscribe. If you want to see more MHayashi, yeah, that rhymes. Um, yeah, if you do it that now, you won't forget later, and you can always unlike and unsubscribe later if you don't like what you see. But how can you not love what you see, right? Anyway, um, yeah, so I've been getting requests to show the Sea and Sky deck again. Particularly since where we last left off, I was still on that Saga version, which was not my most current version as of right now. Um, which is like about mid-September. This is my this is my Sea and Sky deck. I don't anticipate that this deck is going to change that much, if at all. You can always chat me to see if there's been any changes, but I really like this. I really like this 75 as of now. I think the main deck is probably mostly a lock. One of the only cards I could see maybe being changed is Repeal, but Repeal does synergize very well with Chalice of the Void, and it's always been a card that I have liked a lot. Um, yeah, so basically, I think I kind of went over this in the deck tech to the at the end of the Saga video. I mean, at the post league for the Saga video. But at the end of the day, I just feel like actually, believe it or not, I actually kind of funny enough went from trying Urza Saga in every single color of all my decks, and initially thinking that it was kind of the future because of the One Ring, but a combination of things, including the One Ring not necessarily being as ubiquitous as I was expecting it to be, and also not necessarily being as like us being able to beat it more than expected, even without necessarily having to warp our main deck and sideboard. Like originally, I was thinking I may have to reach for Haywire Mites on like every single deck. Of course, last Saga version with the blue deck, I didn't necessarily have the Haywire Mites, but I was already seeing less ring decks than expected. But you could easily just pivot into Haywire Mite if you need to. And while the ring is certainly something that has to be respected, it's just not as common or as backbreaking as it was necessarily thought to be at first. Don't get me wrong, if it catches you, particularly with a very high life total, particularly like on curve on turn 4 and you don't have counter magic or something, I guess at least in this deck, other decks you may not always have counter magic, but you get the idea. Then yeah, it is going to be as good as advertised, but it just doesn't always work that way, like like everything in life. But yeah, Blast Zone for wiping creatures off the board, kind of necessity in my opinion, where we don't really have a lot of creature removal otherwise, and Field of Ruin, of course. Um, it's a land drop, and it also deals with opposing non-basic lands. Pretty important if we don't have Saga of our own. At least being able to deal with opposing sagas is kind of a nice thing. If I have to choose between Field of Ruin and Demolition Field, I go with Field of Ruin because this is a force shuffle that is particularly relevant with Subtlety, because Subtlety will put the card on top sometimes, and then if we Field of Ruin, then they don't draw it. So that is a very, this alone makes Field of Ruin a better choice than Demolition Field, in my opinion at least. And then Fire Ice, which I think I went over last video. Just very solid, mostly because the ice part is incredibly solid even if you never draw a red mana. The ice part alone can help stall a Ragavan, so that alone is pretty sweet. Also, we've seen this card annoy us so much with Rhinos, so it's nice to be able to turn that against the opponent for a change instead of just getting iced ourselves. We can ice back. But then also with 4 red sources, notably that we can tutor up with Lorien Revealed. um, so that's almost kind of like 4 we can draw into naturally, and 4 more copies and effectively through Lorien Revealed. We actually have red mana more than you might think. Um, so that's a very nice ability to deal with. Also Orcus Bowmaster. We can deal with both the Bowmaster and the token pretty cleanly. All in all, I'd say that this is in a good place in the format right now. And honestly, like even just in general, unless like everything starts becoming 3 toughness or more, what a crazy uh unless Modern Horizons 3 like yeah makes it so that like you need to play stuff with minimum 3 toughness or more because there's like a Ren and 6 that down ticks for 2 damage, or a Bowmaster that deals 2 damage when it comes into play. Like, oh god, I really don't hope that I don't give Wizards any ideas here. Then I think Fire being able to hit you know, 2 toughness creatures, and sometimes, you know, 1 toughness, multiple 1 toughness creatures, or a planeswalker here or a player there is going to be pretty relevant, as well as just ice, you know, tapping down, drawing a card. That drawing a card obviously is the huge thing about ice that makes it playable. If it didn't have draw a card, it'd just be kind of a wasted space, but you know, all the Storm Giant's just kind of an insane finisher that's pretty free. Comes into play untapped, 2 most important turns. We know, like from Den of the Bugbear and Hive of the Eye Tyrant, mainly in the red and black decks, that that these lands are pretty free, and Hall of the Storm Giants is no exception. This does take longer to get on board, but it is bigger and hits harder than any of the other man lands too. It is surprisingly not as much of a useless ability as you might think, especially since it's stapled to a land. It just gives you something to do when you have a lot of mana later in the game and you need to finish the opponent off. Yeah, it's far from impossible to activate this thing in a control-ish type deck, which we certainly are. 4 basic islands, because we need to make sure that we don't run out of basics to fetch with Field of Ruin. 4 is the minimum, I think. In an ideal world, it'd be nice to have a little more, but with you know, 24 lands and needing to fit red sources for Fire and Ice, all the Storm Giants, Field, Blast Zone, and Lorien Revealed is effectively like a land almost. It's just we have to pretty much cut the basics to the minimum, and I believe the minimum is 4. And I've never had that many problems. If it's true, if we draw a couple Field of Ruins first, then over a very long game we probably will run out of basics. But that doesn't, you know, even if that does happen, it's not always the end of the world. But if we draw the Field of Ruins first before we draw the basic islands, then typically we will not run out of basics. We will run through our Field of Ruins first before running through our basics. Yeah. And Steam Vents and Xander's Lawn. Steam Vents is for when we need that red source untapped. For example, if we need to deal with a creature, we can Lorien Revealed for a Steam Vents to play this untapped, and then we can fire next turn. So, you know, just nice to have a red source that can come into play untapped, and it is an island, so Lorien Revealed can fetch it. Xander's Lounge it does 2 things for us. One thing is it enables us to cast Dismember without taking life, if that is something that we need to do. There are some matchups where that can be helpful. Dismember is just in general a very sweet card because it's removal effectively out of mono blue, but having the ability to actually play it without losing life is kind of a nice added bonus. I like Xander's Lounge better than Watery Grave. I had Watery Grave in a previous version, but I like Xander's Lounge over Watery Grave for 2 reasons. One reason is that it's also red, so that means if I draw into this naturally, I can cast the fire half of Fire and Ice, which that alone is a pretty good reason, I think, to play Xander's Lounge, because while being able to pay the life for Dismember is nice, I think even more important is unlocking the other half of Fire and Ice. And it's just nice that this does both instead of just only one. And the other reason I prefer this over Watery Grave is this card cycles. True, I could have played like Fetid Pools, I believe, which is the cycling red, blue, black land that cycles for 2. But I think Xander's Lounge is enough upside that you get 1 whole extra color for, you know, in red, and it only costs 1 more to cycle. So I think that the cycling is also a nice benefit over Watery Grave, and the red is enough of a benefit over Fetid Pools that I think this is where we want to be. And the cycling is more relevant than you might think too, because aside from the fact that in a very late game it's just nice to be able to cycle excess lands, it also effectively turns Lorien Revealed into a sort of like, it makes Lorien Revealed sort of cycle for 4 mana too, which might seem like a waste because you're only 1 mana away from hard casting it. But number 1, you can spread it over 2 turns. You can Lorien Revealed like on turn 2, cycles Xander's Lounge on turn 3. Sometimes that's kind of where you need to be, and also you can do this all at instant speed, whereas of course Lorien Revealed is sorcery. Yeah, the other thing about Xander's Lounge too is that in some games you're gonna have like 3 mana, and you're going to want say like, it's hard to explain. Like let's say you got 3 lands in your hand, and let's say let's say you have 3 lands in your hand and you have Lorien Revealed. You may want to on turn 2 and you got like a Subtlety in your hand, no Svyelun or something to play on turn 3. Just just theory crafting here. That's a situation where sometimes it's correct to Lorien Revealed for a Xander's Lounge as opposed to a Steam Bench. Yeah, you'll get punished if you draw like a Svyelun or something to play on 3, but if you're trying to get to turn 4, just hypothetically, this could be a number of different points on the curve, but I chose this specifically because you'll just see it just kind of works itself out the best. So like, yeah, so you got 3 lands in your hand and Lorien Revealed, and a Subtlety that you're trying to build towards being able to hard cast. Sometimes it's correct on turn 2 to Lorien Revealed for a Xander's Lounge, and the reason is that, yeah, although you could cut yourself off from 3 drops if you draw them, what that does is that if you draw another land, and Xander's Lounge becomes a little bit redundant because you don't really have that much at 5 mana here. I mean, I guess you're always building up to all the Storm Giants, but you can pretty much do everything you need to for the most part on 4 mana, like Cleric Blast Zone. You get the idea. I guess Lorien Revealed itself, being able to hardcast this on 5 is nice, but other than that, you can do most of the things you need to do on 4. So for example, yeah, on turn 2 you get this, and then if you don't draw another land, you just play out Xander's Lounge, and then you can slam the last land in your hand on turn 4, boom. You curved out into hardcast Subtlety on turn 4 where you want it to be. But if you do draw another land, you may just want to cycle Xander's Lounge on curve on turn 3 if they don't play anything in a turn, because otherwise you could get flooded. So that's a nice little, things like that are also a nice little advantage to Xander's Lounge, which I like. Counterspell, I don't think I need to say anything else about that. Just Counterspell, it's great. Brazen Borrower, also just great. It's a creature, it removes anything, especially good with Chalice of the Void. If we hit a 1-drop and Chalice is in play, that can oftentimes function almost like a strict removal spell, and a 3/1 Flying Flash and instant speed. Force of Negation, just very powerful effect, being able to counter the One Ring for free, well, even when we're tapped out. I think it was arguably necessary even before the One Ring, but with the One Ring in the format, this card, if we're at all tapping out, and if you're wondering how I budgetize, perhaps one of the ways is that I try to make it so I never have to tap out, but as long as we're playing a deck that taps out, which classic Sea and Sky does, Force of Negation is kind of necessary, so that we don't insta-lose to the opponent slamming something like the One Ring on turn 4. And no card does a better job at making sure that doesn't happen than Force. Svyelun, this is what the deck is named after, Mono Blue Sea and Sky as it's oftentimes called, and previous versions played like Tide Shaper sometimes, or I forget what it's called, Riptide Pilfer, and sideboard shenanigans. But to this time we're going sans any merfolk at all, even in the sideboard, but I still think this card is playable. The Indestructible is nice, but at the end of the day, it is a 3-mana 3/4, which alone is a very nice body that actually can function as a very nice blocker in certain board states where we really need one to hold the board. Of course, if this had natural vigilance, that would be even better. We could play Minamo, but I just don't have room for it. But the only way this card would be even better is if it had vigilance. The legendary rule is a little bit, it would be better if it didn't have it, but it rarely becomes that big of an issue. This is one of those cards ultimately that they have to kill on sight the vast majority of the time, or the game will snowball out of control, and we will win. And the fact that it is both a draw engine and a win condition is nice as well. The 4 toughness being very clutch as well due to Lightning Bolt. Dismember, I think I already explained, colorless removal. Blue doesn't really have much removal, so also can be played under Chalice on 1. So there's a lot of things going for Dismember in this deck, and I think the downsides are far outweighed by the upsides, especially when we are essentially mono blue, mostly mono blue. We only have arguably the lightest of splashes for half a card, and for paying the life for Dismember, but ostensibly removal in a monocolor deck is excellent. And Subtlety. So like I said earlier, kind of if you ideally you kind of want to play this on turn 4. It's something that you can pitch, and when you do pitch it, a lot of times you will oftentimes lose the game if you don't. So what can I say? You won't win every single time you have to pitch this, but the fact that you will win some number of games that you otherwise would have lost on the spot if you can't counter some kind of creature at instant speed. Usually creature you can target planeswalkers too, but most games you are going to seal the deal much easier if you can get to 4 mana and hard cast it. That's what you're going to be trying to do most of the time, and it's just very sweet as a 4 mana play on turn 4, being able to effectively counter. Sure, it can go back on the top of their library if they want it again, but they still go down a card, you still go up a card, and then you generate some tempo by putting a body into play, which is very nice. It's just an extra win condition. That is also a free pitch spell, which is very relevant if you want to tap out for Svyelun. For example, if they Fury, oftentimes that could be a good option to pitch the Subtlety, because if they can't deal with the Svyelun, this card, the Svyelun, will draw you back the card you had to go down to evoke the Subtlety, which is nice. And then if you can untap after you play Svyelun, sometimes you have Counterspell up anyway on the next turn. So, yep, Subtlety, just very nice tool to have. I very much am a fan. Yeah, Lorien Revealed. Yeah, I think I kind of already went over this. It's mainly for being able to get our red sources and black sources should we need them. It's also, I don't know if this is secondary or not, but it is made perhaps in equal measure. Just a very nice. It's at 1 cycling, as many people have said. It's almost just like a land. It basically takes a land slot, but it is basically like a land that can be pitched to Subtlety and Force of Negation. And sometimes you even cast it for 5, which comes up more than you might think. And it is very strong to draw 3 cards late in the game when you otherwise couldn't. And then I've already said Repeal is mainly for synergizing with Chalice. You want to be able to keep the board clear of aggressive creatures. Many aggressive creatures cost 1, and then if you drop a Chalice, it's basically hard removal. But sometimes just having the option to bounce stuff to counter later, even if you have to put yourself at slight tempo disadvantage, is still kind of a card that you easily could lose the game if you don't have access to. It also should be noted, always keep in mind that you do have the option to pay 4 to repeal your own Svyelun, and then you will go up a card if it successfully resolves, because it'll fizzle the removal spell, and you will draw a card off the repeal. So, but it is, of course, at the cost of tempo. This is card advantage when you repeal your own creature at the cost of tempo. It's still, this is probably the most suspect card that could perhaps get cut, but it's just very flexible in that it is a draw spell of sorts, while also being a removal spell of sorts as well. So just I like it. Oh yeah, plus also it's a house against tokens. Ironically, that's one of the biggest concerns though I have about this in the deck, is just that sometimes its most powerful use is like bouncing a Caldera token or a Rhino token or something like that. But then if we play Chalice on 1, then we shut off Repeal being able to bounce tokens. The good news is I think most of the decks where we want to bounce tokens, Chalice on 1, like we're not going to want to play Chalice on 1. For example, against Rhinos, we want to play this on 0 so that it counters the Footfalls. And against Hammer Time, you would think we want to play Chalice on 1, and I guess sometimes we will, and that's the biggest issue, is sometimes it becomes a non-bow. But oftentimes, Chalice is a kind of a double-edged sword. I would say a lot of times we actually want to play Chalice on 0 against Hammer Time, although I wonder if recent lists have been cutting the 0 drops more than they have in previous iterations. 0 is pretty free because it doesn't counter anything on our side, especially since we don't have Ancestral Vision in this list anymore. But yeah. Anyway, I would say though that most of the time your opponent is not going to be playing tokens, so obviously it's not a non-bow in that sense. But anyway, Chalice of the Void, obviously just we're not playing 1-drops, so being able to shut off the opponent from doing so is very nice. Dress down. Oh yeah, first just the regular cards, Spreading Seas, being able to supplement Field of Ruin to keep the opponent off of Tron, or just more Urza Saga hate. Also Urza Saga hate on turn 2 so that they can't generate even 1 token before this ideally takes it out. Is pretty sweet. Engineer Explosives. Between this and Ratchet Bomb, I think as long as this is not too expensive, unless there's like budget concerns or something, I think you probably want to be on engineered explosives, at least in this deck, over Ratchet Bomb, because unlike previous mostly monocolor decks I played in the past, this deck has access to not just one, but two extra colors for a total of possibly three. This card can come down with Sunburst, not just one, but where even like previous decks could do, but also two and three, and it's very relevant because sometimes we'll want to play this down on three because the opponent will have a lot of 3-drops that we can hit, and then if they drop a Blood Moon later, for example, we can crack this after they play the Blood Moon. In other words, deter them playing a Blood Moon, sort of. Not that Blood Moon is too automatically concerning. After all, Lorien Revealed goes a long way in helping make sure that even if we have no basic islands, we can use Lorien to fetch a basic island straight up out from under a Blood Moon, which is very nice. Graveyard Hate, we're actually reaching for Hearse instead of the typical Relic. Reason being is that it synergizes better with Chalice of the Void on 1. True, it gets hurt by Chalice on 2, but I would say that most of the time, if most of the time we're probably going to be better off siding out Chalice and trying to play it on 2 if the opponent doesn't have good targets on 1 or 0. There are perhaps some exceptions, but I would say that we're going to run up against more decks where we want both Chalice on 1 and Graveyard Hate than we will decks that want Chalice on 2 and Graveyard Hate. So Hearse, plus Hearse is also another win condition, which is nice. Yeah, I would still play Relic most likely if it wasn't for Chalice on 1, but that mainly we're playing Hearse for not disynergizing with Chalice. We could play Tormod's Crypt, for example, but this card also doubling as a win condition is pretty nice. Plus, also we're having repeated uses as opposed to just one use from Tormod's Crypt. Plus, Tormod's Crypt, one of the preeminent graveyard decks where we would want to bring Tormod's Crypt is Living End, and then we want to play Chalice of Void on 0 rather than 1 in that deck. So there you go. Chalice on 0 conflicting with a 0-mana Graveyard Hate card is also an issue. But like I said, very few decks we care that much to have to put Chalice on 2, in case anybody's curious. And then Dress Down. This card has been, many people have said that I should try this card. I am very glad that you did because, while this card looks kind of janky, I think it's proven itself in the modern metagame. Most seasoned modern players probably already realize how powerful this is from seeing this played in Murktide and other decks, but yeah, it just does a lot. For example, you can play this in response to a Bowmaster, so they won't get the 1 damage, and they won't get the Orc token. Notably, they also cannot respond to the draw trigger with Orcus Bowmasters because due to the way the timing works, the Bowmaster will lose its ability by the time you will draw a card. So this card also draws a card and never can really actually get punished by Bowmasters because it'll shut off the ability even if they play it in response. And I don't know what else to say. It also is kind of like a pseudo way to deal with Ragavan. At least it prevents Ragavan from gaining a treasure token and possibly drawing a card off at the top of your library. So, it doesn't deal with the Ragavan, but it does take the fangs out, so to speak, especially if it's dashing, because then it even takes the haste away, and they may not even get the damage, and they tapped out for 2. There's just so much, DRC, bring it down to 1. Tarmogoyf, bring it down to a 0/1. Urza tokens, of course, just outright kill. Yeah, this is just a very sweet card, and it does a lot. Stoneforge Mystic, the uses are endless practically. Anyway, with that being said, I think I just wanted to make one more. Let's see here, make one more shout out. I think I would like to note that somebody went 5-0 with this list. I have not yet, but I want to give a shout out to somebody. It's almost a 70 copy. Okay, yeah. Bort at Pileckin on Twitter at Pileckin. Bort, yeah, with that at following. Yeah, he apparently went 5-0 with this exact 75, with the only exception being that the engineered explosives are split up between 2 ratchet bombs and 2 engineered explosives. I asked why, if that was because of like playing around pith and needle or something, and I was informed that the main reason was because a concession to the cards he owns in paper. They own in paper, so so yeah. Other than that, check out their deck list on Twitter if you're interested. It should be in my timeline, and we can get to the games. But I would like everybody to know that this deck has been proven to be capable of getting a 5-0. The matchups, according to Bort, were Prowess, Coffers, Murktide, 4-color Saga, and Scales. So, not familiar with 4-color Saga, but it sounds like an impressive deck, and I'm glad we were able to take it down vicariously through Bort. So, shout out to Bort again. Hats off. Congratulations. This deck did go 5-0 through them, and hopefully we will show how this deck is at least, strong enough where we can hopefully pull off a 5-0 ourselves at some point. So, all right, let's get to the game. All right. So, actually, I'm not going to say which actual match this was. So, yeah, so we're just gonna say first match we're highlighting here. I'm not necessarily going in order because I want to make for a better viewing experience. And if I take a loss, I'm not saying whether I will or not, I don't want it to necessarily derail the hype too early. Let's just put it that way. In any case, this is definitely a keepable hand, and it's a Hall of the Storm Giants. All right, so this looks like it is good old-fashioned scam, and I really like if this is scam because this is exactly the type of deck I like to test against. Yeah, that seemed like a pretty good. Oh yeah, see if this is one of those situations where I explained how we have to, where subtlety could just save us from losing the game. There's no way they'd evoke that without having a undying effect, and yeah, I'm gonna take them off of red. Okay, that's fine. We, unlike with an 8/8 first strike, Bowmasters is a little more manageable. That's unfortunate, but we're not necessarily SOL like if they had played an 8/8 first strike. But 5 power, spread over 3 creatures, one of which is unblockable, and one of which punishes us from drawing cards. Needless to say, is not exactly. I'm surprised I didn't cycle for a Xander's Lounge, but I guess the Bowmaster is making it so that I want to ideally deal with the Bowmaster and then hardcast Lorien Revealed, but I don't know if that's going to happen. This is a little bit miserable, but at least I get some value out of this. We have to pretty much pray that they do not have any more red sources. I don't know what this is about. Okay, but they don't actually finish our, do they? Oh yes, because they got another one in their hand. Lovely. Alright, hats off to the opponent. That was a good, yeah, well, Svyelun actually could end up being very important. Well, okay, that's fine, but unless they got another one in their hand still. Okay. Yeah, token seemed, and of course it's just going to kill us, but I just didn't have much of a choice. I suppose I could have attacked, but what would that have done? They had me lethal with just the Dothy. This is unfortunate, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. All right, match 2. Let's take a look at the old sideboard of renew. I'm trying to say like Rooney, but I don't know. This is kind of a cute little expression sometimes. we add in America at the end, whatever. Okay, so what are we doing here? Oh yeah, Dress Down. I love Dress Down. I think we can even intercept a scam, because I think yeah, if we play Dress Down after they give the scam creature the ability, if we play Dress Down will overwrite that ability, take it away, and then the creature won't come back. So that is another nice thing about scam. Plus we can block a Dothy if they attack, and to Svyelun we can play Dress Down that'll remove Shadow, and we can block this. You see what I mean? There's just a surprising amount of uses, and the fact that it just draws a card is just so sweet. Yeah, Chalice, this is not the matchup for Chalice. Sure, it shuts off Lightning Bolt and Push, but... And I guess it technically stops scamming, but it stops the scamming on turn 2. I'm surprised I didn't bring in Hearse, though. Hearse seems like it's a little more versatile later in the game, unlike Chalice, while also turning off the scam. But I can also see it being a bit of a dead card, because it requires another creature, like a Svyelun or a Brazen Borrower or something, to work properly. So basically we just ended up taking out Chalice for what's it called, Dress Down, and we took out Force of Negation for Engineer Explosives, just because Engineer Explosives, like last game for example, being able to wipe the board with E on 2 could have been very, very helpful. That's pretty much where we're at. Let's go. Alrighty, this hand is borderline keepable because of this Lorien. I guess we'll keep. I think. Yeah, we'll keep. It's a close call, but you know, I almost forgot. Oh my god, so we have to pitch, and I can't pitch the Lorien because I need that for the mana. But as you can see, Subtlety at least. Oh, yeah, this is a little. They had 2 different creatures. So it looks like we're going to lose this one, except we got the Brazen Borrower actually, so we should definitely not throw in the towel. It is worth noting that Dress Down would have made it not have double strike also, but just removing it entirely is nice. Hoping to draw land, but it is what it is. Why did I do that? Why didn't? Oh yeah, because I didn't have a black source. Svyelun, yeah. If we can get this rockin'. Oh yeah. Oh please, not scam. Okay, I did have Dismember. Yeah, and you know what? Actually, scam would have been fine because we had Dismember. Take down there. Okay, now if this sticks, I think we're gonna be in great shape. Yeah, Dress Down also kind of like a pseudo counter for Fury, at least for the ability. Oh yeah, man, always with some kind of answer. Let's see here. Play Brazen Borrower. Of course, they have another removal spell, but we have 5 cards to their 0, so I guess we shouldn't complain. Okay, now we need like a Field of Ruin because that Castle Lockthwain is being very nasty. Okay, let's tap something, I think. Holding it up in case we want to play. Yeah. Alright, it is what it is. At least we can start adding to the board sometime later. They seem to be terribly mana screwed. Let's dash down here. Yep. This was I was telling you guys. Very nice. Very nice solution to Ragavan. And then it still returns to their hand. Yeah, let's make our land drop. And we're probably going to Subtlety that Ragavan. We're probably going to keep drawing cards and losing life, but we're still pretty far ahead. Yeah, let's Subtlety that. Okay, that looks like a Fury. Alright, well, good thing we got the Dismember. Yeah, let's do that. Let's play the Svyelun. Oh, no, actually. Let's repeal that. Yeah, let's counter that. We don't really care if they replay the Ragavan. Alrighty. Svyelun. Don't mind if we do. Hold up the repeal for more dashing shenanigans. And actually, we're winning the race because they keep taking damage off the castle. And fortunately for us, they seem to draw nothing but lands, which is nice. For us, not for them. For them, it must be absolutely miserable. Believe me, if I had a nickel for every time I kept drawing nothing but lands when I activated Castle Octwain, you know, I might have 40 to 50 cents by now. It is what it is. Alright. Explosives on 1 for the Raggy Taggy. Yeah, might as well crack it. I think cracking it is the way to go. And don't mind if I do. Alright, do we fire this in the turn? Or do we ice the Fury? I think we, no, I think, surprised we didn't hold up to ice the Fury. Because we're, oh yeah, because we could just force a chump block, silly me, with the Hall of the Storm Giant. Yep, so they have to chump block. And that's the power of Hall of Storm Giants. Well, okay, so they need like a Fatal Push, and they don't have it. Alright. Yeah, game 3 in this match. Still scam. First match we're highlighting here. I think same sideboarding strategy. So let's go. I mean, yeah, I can imagine better hands, but I'm not going to be greedy. And this is what I like about this deck, is even if we draw Fire and Ice, you know, we can still, it's, you know, not a dead card because of the Ice Half, and it's still a relatively powerful card. Yeah, I think we play out the island so we can hold up Counterspell. I think we got a counter. Oh, actually, not too bad. So we can cycle the Xander's Lounge. Yeah, we'll play this out. I don't really care too much if they take the Repeal or the EE. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we jump the gun on playing EE on 2. Especially with this happening. And that happening. Cycle Xander's Lounge. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Really regretting playing this EE on 2 now. Oh. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Should we counter? I was kind of close to thinking maybe we should counter. Okay, well, at least we got Dismember Uno. Dismember Rooney. Yeah. Better than dying to Ragavan. Yeah, I don't want to die. I don't want to die of grief. I didn't have to play it, I guess, but well, you know, that's what it is. Okay, plan, draw, go. Yeah, might as well do this now, I guess. What's the? I guess I can intercept a dashing Rakdos. Okay. Subtlety. Trust down. Anyways, this is where us ripping like a Lorien Revealed. It is worth noting the Blood Moon is cutting them off of hard casting more griefs. So the Blood Moon is not necessarily a one-sided beat stick against us. It's a double-edged sword. And that's one thing I like about Blood Moon in a mono red deck, is it doesn't color skew you the same way. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. Okie dokie, okie dokie. Okay. They are ahead on the clock, but this is looks manageable so far. Okay. Might as well hold on to it, right? I'm fine with that. Alrighty. You know, actually, one thing we could do, we could repeal our own dress down. And what that does is we draw a card and then draw a card again with dress down. So it's actually, I forgot that that's an option, but in retrospect, that probably would have been a very good use of this repeal. And really liking these Xander's Lounges right here instead of Watery Graves, as you can see. Very nice to be able to cycle those. Alright, well, Ash, can you show receive in regards to the Lorien Revealed off the top? And yeah, I don't think we can allow that to happen. And thankfully they don't have black mana to do another one. Alright, fair enough. Alright, well, we can play fire to intercept a dashing Raga, or we can crack a engine explosives. They are just not seeing another black source, which is just fine by us. Whew. Yeah, I think we want to counter that. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good value there for them. Yeah, let's get some Brazen Borrowing going. I'm glad they let us untap because now we can repeal our own Borrower. Alright, so this, okay, I'm surprised they must have put Bowmaster on the bottom. Alrighty. Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it, we'll take it, we'll take it. Alright. Match 2 that we're highlighting here. And this is a keep, believe it or not, because even though we have a lot of lands, 2 of these lands straight up deal with most permanents that we have problems with. One of them can deal with lands, the only other type of permanent that the Blast Zone can't. Chalice can hopefully protect our Svyelun, and since it's burned, Chalice might be able to more or less win us the game on its own. And we even have Force as well. The Lorien Revealed is a nice pitch for Force, so we can get our Svyelun down. This is going to be tight, and this is also going to punish our Force big time. But establishing Svyelun is very good. In theory, we race the Goblin Guide. I will. Okay, I'm surprised they didn't play. They didn't play Shearing Blaze. I would have forced, even if I'm taking 5 damage, because actually establishing a clock and racing is actually one of the only ways we actually win. No, thank you. Let's do that. I do not want to take 4 to the face. I just really don't. Okay, that's a little terrifying, but at this rate, it is looking like they are probably going to deck before. There's not much difference between getting Xander and getting a non-Xander land, because we cannot allow them. Okay, so we're going to play Chalice on 2, and that will hopefully... Actually, no, there's no point in playing on Chalice on 2, because we might as well use our Counterspell first. Hopefully hit a 3-drop, and then shut off 2 drops for the rest of the game. Okay, that was unfortunate. But as long as we got this Counterspell in our hand, I think we're in good shape. We're getting a little floody, I think we're gonna, let's see, yeah. Yeah, and then just dying to their own Vortex. Okay. Alright, game 2 in the second match we're highlighting here. Sideboard time. So, out of all the cards, Dismember is the most suspect because Dismember turns any of their creatures into a Vexing Devil that oftentimes also dealt us damage from haste, and that's just not very good. So, what did we bring in here? We brought in Unlicensed. Curse? No, Spreading Seas. Yeah, we brought in Spreading Seas. Okay. That makes sense, actually. Color screwing them can sometimes be a nice way to juke them. We've certainly done it before. We're not going to turn down a hand with 2 Chalices, though, I'll tell you that much. We are probably pitching Subtlety here. I do identify this as one of these situations where it doesn't feel good, but where we're probably going to lose if we don't do this. So, what the game plan here is we're trying to establish Chalice on 1, then Chalice on 2. If we can do that, I think we can win. And we don't necessarily immediately need a clock either with this strategy. Ooh, but now we just have to play Chalice on 1 again, I think. Either that or we just still wait for Chalice on 2. I'm gonna hit, okay, yeah, Chalice on 1. It's always better to try to establish the Chalice on 1 first, because once you play Chalice on 2, you can't play a Chalice on 1 again. Yeah, I'm gonna wait, I think, to hard cast the Lorien. Plus we can pitch it if necessary. I'm doing this to set up for a hard cast Lorien next turn if they don't play anything, which I think we will. But I also kind of want to field them off at the Sacred Foundry though too. Yeah, that's going to be the plan. Also establish a clock. I mean, it's a little dangerous, but especially since the Force of Negation gets punished by the Rolling Vortex. Well, that's somehow. Okay, I guess we have to do that, right? Yeah, works for me. And I guess we can Force of Negation again on the way down. Probably pitch the Brazen Borrower. Thankfully, for 1, I don't think they can kill us yet. Drawing more counter magic is pretty much the bee's knees. Ooh, I was worried that was another Exquisite Firecraft. Ooh. Okay. All right, let's finally establish a little clockery now. Yeah, I guess I have to. I mean, I can still play the Counterspell, right? So might as well. Oh, please don't draw a land and then play double 2 drops. Oh, no fetchable land. Oh no, they cracked the Sunbake. Okay, well, works for us, man. If I was worried when they played the second land, because then double Boros turn, GG. But not this time. Double fire, and ooh, that's the next one. Okie dokie. Third match we are highlighting. This hand will keep. It is a little suspect, but the lands also, in theory, have a lot of value. But this looks like Tron. Chalice on 1 can do work, but oftentimes much more so on the play. So this is a little bit suspect, but I think we have to play Chalice on 1. It's one of our only ways to actually juke a win here. Oof. You know, and I know I said like we're almost always going to be trying to angle to play Subtlety on turn 4, but as we can see, man, having that option to just not lose, and, you know, and Field of Ruin to the rescue. Hopefully they can't play more. Yeah, hopefully they got like a ton of Expedition maps in their hand and Mana Rocks. It could be the case. And if it is, then I feel like I'm sitting relatively pretty, which is very nice. Now, part of me wants to tap that tower, but okay, they didn't naturally draw Tron. I might just Lorien. I can always. This is the thing, when we have Force and Subtlety, tapping out for 5 mana is a lot less problematic. And now we're gonna tap that down. Well, we got another Field of Ruin. So I'm actually kind of liking this. I'm starting to become a believer that we're actually going to be stealing this Tron match. And I got a really strong feeling that Chalice is doing a lot of work here. And they were very polite by confirming that. They didn't have to, but I appreciate that they gave us a little taste that they probably had a lot of it in their hand. I get that they're trying to also show us that they were kind of unlucky to draw a bunch of that, which is true. But it's also nice knowing that I should probably keep Chalice in. So, you know, probably the opponent shouldn't have done that, but I certainly understand why, and there's a good chance I could have as well, but But that confirms what we thought. Chalice was doing a lot of work there, which is always nice. All right, game 2 in third match we're highlighting here. And that's one downside about Chalice, is that sometimes it's hard to tell if it's actually doing work or not if the opponent doesn't play their 1-mana spells into it. So, but I think we can intuit that Tron probably had a bunch of 1-drops in their hand. They just weren't playing anything, right? Dismember just doesn't really hit anything. All it does is hit like a Worm Coil, and even then you need like another copy to actually kill it, and even then they still get 2 tokens, so it's kind of not ideal. I suppose we could, if we really wanted to, reach for Dress Down to at least let them not get the tokens from Worm Coil, but that's just playing a 3-card combo to deal with a Worm Coil seems like not where we want to be. That being said, we obviously take out the Dismember to play in Spreading Seas, and that's that. Okay, well, we got Field of Ruin, we got Chalice, we got Force of Negation, and we got a Clock that also draws us cards. So we were very close to forcing that. It's always an interesting call whether to force the map or not. As it turns out, so they definitely want to play out all their 1-drops before we drop the Chalice. The reason, though, why I'm holding the Force instead of forcing the Expedition map is that I'm hoping that the Chalice does a lot of work again, and I really want to save this Force for a Karn the Great Creator, or a One Ring for that matter, because Karn the Great Creator is just a clean answer to Chalice. It just upticks and then kills Chalice, but if we counter Karn, then Karn cannot do that. So, yeah. So they could have Tron, but Force of Negation will deal with most of the problematic cards. Now, if they also have Karn, it is what it is. That's fine. That's fine. We can live with that. Yeah, what we probably want to do here is to field and then to bounce. Do we just bounce it? This is a risky strategy we take, because now they can just crack the O-Stone. That's fine. We can, because they're incentivized to crack it now, and even if so, we play Ice. But we can play another Chalice on 1, and so I think we still end up being okay here. That was a 2-for-1 for them, but we definitely want to hold up the Counterspell. I think as long as we can protect this Chalice. That was a little risky, but I don't think they play much artifact and enchantment removal nowadays other than Boseiju, which is uncounterable anyway. Okay, well, we're going to Field of Ruin that. So, like, normally tapping out is a little suspect, because we want to hold up counter magic for like a naturalized type effect. But again, I think they're mostly kind of in it for the Boseiju. Okay, so it's 7 mana. I kind of don't want to lose to Karn Liberated. If I had another mana, I would have Subtletied, but that's what it is. Oh, now we Subtlety. And one nice thing also about Chalice of the Void is that it shuts off Veil of Summer, which they very often bring in. It's probably one of the best things I like about Sea and Sky is Chalice on 1. Incidentally, just happens to be great counterattack against one of the most powerful anti-blue cards ever printed. So with that, we have at least a 3-0. So that's nice knowing that at least we come out ahead this league. All right. Fourth match we're highlighting here, and we're up against the legendary Dak Vaden. So let's see. Hopefully we don't lose the momentum here. Not that this is the necessary order we're in the league, but this is a keepable hand. I can't really complain too much. I think we are going to, we have to cycle the Lorien Revealed, unless they present something that for some reason has to be answered with Dismember, like right now. Okay, that is tempting. I guess okay, I know what my thinking was. I just don't know if they play that many 1-drops. See, the problem is now they play this, and I think we just lose here, because I can't actually deal with this. Unfortunately, Fire Ice counts as a monocolor spell on the stack, so Fire Ice doesn't actually deal with this. So I don't actually have an answer to this. It is worth noting that I might have actually had the win if I would have held up Counterspell, but I just don't know they're playing this, and you know, usually they do play this Zoo deck does play like Lightning Bolts, Ragavans, and such. It's not like Chalice is completely without use, but if we could have countered the general, I think we could have had a chance, but alas, we cannot block because it has protection from monocolor. Well, I guess we could have. Wait, why didn't we block? Oh, because it had first strike or something. No, why didn't we block? Huh. Well, realistically, even if we blocked at this point. See, and this is actually where Repeal shutting off our ability to hit tokens is not so good. We had no idea, though, they were just going to slam a General. I have not seen General in such a long time. I mean, it is a good card, but I guess it's not seeing play because there's so many, like, Terminates and what else? Actually, how much multicolor removal it really is floating around? There's Terminate, but, like, what else is there, right? So, like, maybe General should see more play, but for whatever reason, I just haven't seen this in maybe like a year or something. So, if I would, yeah. Well, now we know about this. Alrighty. Okay, we'll keep. Let's actually, we actually bring in the dress down, and one reason why we take out the Force of Negation. Force of Negation could be good against the Tribal Flames variants. I don't know what they're on because they're just playing like. I'm not used to Bloodbraid Elf out of this deck. I'm not used to General out of this deck. I don't know if this is really Domain Zoo. It has Domain Mana Base, but anyhow, I think Chalice didn't look too impressive in that game. Plus, it shut off my ability to repeal the tokens. So I think Dress Down but Dress Down also shuts off General's ability and allows us to dismember it or whatever, which is very sweet. And what did we take out Repeal for? So, oh yeah, Engineer Explosives, because being able to deal with Territorial Kavu. It is worth noting, though, Dress Down just outright kills Territorial Kavu and draws a card, but still having more answers, possibly against Ragavan as well, which we can't rule out that they do still have. EA just seems where we want to be. That rhymed. And Force. I just remember what my deck had. Always have to keep checking. My. Oh yeah, Spreading Seas. Yeah, I think Spreading Seas is kind of a make sure I recorded the right match here. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Yeah, so I did, because I had another match pulled up here somehow. I didn't know I could do that. Yeah, somehow I have two. I didn't know Wizards let me do this, but somehow I have two windows open for recording purposes. Anywho's it. Yeah, because Spreading Seas is obviously good against a 5-color deck. Let's go. Yeah, Fielder Ruin can be good too. I think we actually have tools to beat this deck. Okay, Crashing Pool, how's that? Oh, I think I actually saw Dak Faden's video. I wonder, I don't think I made it into the video, but I think I saw their video playing this deck. I think the reason why we're seeing unusual cards is this is the Marauder version that's trying to play Crashing Footfalls for 2 mana. I mean, okay, fine. Hold that up. We need like a counter spell like right now. Okay. I think we're angling to cycle Xander's Lounge. And then just put another land into our hand. I don't know. Okay, we gotta subtlety this. Okay, they subtlety the subtlety. Yeah, they're definitely playing that delirium crushing footfalls deck. Okay. Force of Negation. This is kind of ass. Excuse the French, but yeah, this is smelly ass right now. Like holy moly. But well played to Dak Vaden. You know, it just sucks. It just sucks. We're just getting thrashed right here. With all those all these spells we were not expecting. Not that we could have necessarily played around it anyway. I guess I could have played around subtlety with playing actual factual counterspell, but yeah, we had never seen this deck before. I think maybe a week or two after this match, we had started seeing Dak Vaden's video with this interesting. We never actually saw that 2-mana Marauder card that has Cascade as long as you have Delirium. Maybe they took it out against us, and they didn't see it game 1. But anyway, cool deck, I guess. It doesn't seem to be catching on. I don't know if it's not catching on because it's just not consistent enough, or if one of the things about Magic is sometimes things just don't catch on because people don't feel like playing the deck. Like you gotta, especially in formats like Modern, like unless it's a format where there's like constant, I don't know, in a format like this is the thing about Magic, even if there is a ton of competition, I think the subjective choices of the pros and stuff actually matters a lot, because oftentimes they want to play decks they're comfortable playing. And sometimes a deck like the one Dak Vaden made here could get overlooked just because it's doesn't fit the play style for a lot of players, including the pros perhaps. That probably goes double or even triple for my decks, which even double or triple don't seem to fit the play pattern for most players, especially the pros. Even though I do think there's certainly like something here to these decks, but so I guess it's cool if we have to lose, we lose to another person trying to push the envelope with innovation and whatnot. And check Dak Vaden's channel out if you have the time. He's always doing interesting stuff for sure. All right. Okay. All right. So match 5 we're going to be highlighting here. And actually, full disclosure, unless this is a totally different deck. Nope, it's my mono blue deck. So I think I know what's going on here actually. So full disclosure, and we will keep this hand. But I'm pretty sure this is actually a 2-man that I jumped in because I think Dak Vaden, well, he blocked me from a 4-1. I don't think, looking at the results and stuff, I think this was a 3-2 league. I mean, that's what my little notation on the folder that I put this in says. It says this was a 3-2 league. That being said, I'm actually gonna just go ahead and replace one of the I think the first match I played. I'm gonna replace the first match I played where I lost with this 2-man I did immediately after losing to Dak. That's what we're gonna do. Sometimes I will do that, full disclosure. I'm a human being. Sometimes if I get thrashed too hard like that, kind of wanna try to get a win, just to make myself feel better. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can take a break from MTG here with our head held high, because that was a pretty nasty thrashing against Dak. But hey, again, if we're gonna lose to anybody, at least Dak is one of the cooler players to have lost to. But still, trying to get a win here before we call it quits for Magic for now. Not that I'm playing right now. I'm obviously doing a post league. I am mixing in the live commentary though. And what deck are we playing against? This looks like some kind of Jund-esque type deck. I'm so confused. I suppose this is exactly the kind of deck you could see in a 2-man because people are experimenting more there. Part of me wanted to hit that Fiery Islet, but I think I gotta hold up the Svyelun. So let's hit the Triumph. And let's try to do this. Hopefully they don't spell Pierce. Okay, it worked. It worked. And we will try to subtlety that on the way back down. As you can see, this is really the one of the nicest things about these bounce spells. We could have done something similar with Repeal. We couldn't have fired off the Field of Ruin first, of course, but when you got Subtlety in the mix, I think cards like Repeal, their stock goes way up. So yeah, not sure still what deck this is. It looks like a mid-range deck that is more of the tumor variety. That's just what it looks like. For all intents and purposes, okay, it's not a kind of forgot about this deck. It's not at all just a Jund-esque type deck. And they return a bunch of lands to their hand. Interesting. It's Seismic Assault. Oh boy, I haven't seen this deck in a long time. And now they replay this card. But it doesn't have flying. But I have a nasty feeling that this card is gonna grow a lot and kill me out of nowhere. Okay. Well, at least they're on a 2-turn clock. If I could have Force of Negation the Fury, I would have, but it is a creature. Now the problem here is that they can at least put the Fire Island into the graveyard, making this a 4/4. Okay, well, because that could return the Fire Islet. Well, okay, okay, well let's see. Unfortunately, the Wooded Foothills, because the Wooded Foothills puts a land in the graveyard from anywhere, so it becomes a 4/4. Crack the Fire Islet 5/5. You know, in retrospect, I should have forced them to see the line, but it's pretty obvious they must have been thinking that. But it was still correct to force the Wrenn, because notably, if they didn't have the fetch, what they could have done before is played Wrenn, cracked Fire Islet, then replayed the Fire Islet cracked again to get lethal. Even if they had another Wrenn, at least. All they needed to do was buy one more turn. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this time. But let's see, we still got next time. Okay, Seismic Assault, and you'd think Spreading Seas, but I don't think it's necessary to reach for this. It does help keep them off of Seismic Assault mana, but I think Seismic Assault I've got covered well enough. We were so close to being able to win that last game. It kind of sucks that it slipped through somehow. But yes, we could take out Repeal for Injured Explosives, mainly because I want to have clean answers to Wrenn 6, and I guess that's pretty much it. No, actually, no, Injured Explosives are still in here. So what did I take out Spreading Seas for? Took out Spreading Seas for... Oh, Unlicensed Hearse, of course. Love their name, by the way. Who's Next? Makes me think of Thanos from Marvel Superheroes, the Capcom fighting game. Who's next? Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, everybody was so into Infinity War. It's like I actually read the Infinity Gauntlet comic book because of the Marvel Superheroes fighting game. That game was so fire. Man, the imagery was so great too, like Captain America stage and stuff. And it was like, it's actually crazy how much respect Capcom played to that comic. I heard there was kind of like a sort of a Westaboo, so to speak, or a huge fan of maybe American comics specifically at Capcom, who was actually kind of like getting the first dibs on the comics before they were even translated into Japanese. And I heard he did like an unofficial translation for the people at his office or something. Don't quote me on that, but I saw some interesting YouTube video about like why was there such insanely quality games that were like ripping those Marvel heroes like right out of the comic books and doing them so much justice, and like, clearly a Marvel fan had to be doing them. And sure enough, that's what I heard. Sure enough, was at least one, if not multiple, huge Marvel fans at Capcom at the time. I think Marvel needs to acknowledge that there has to be some, that had to have played at least somewhat into the MCU kind of exploding. Just that not only were comics such a big deal. I mean, actually, I don't think the comics themselves actually were ever as big of a force as just the cultural impact around the comics. And I think things like the Marvel Superheroes and the Marvel vs. Capcom game series and all that must have elevated people's interest in the whole Marvel universe enormously. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, so we took out what? Yeah, okay, we left one repeal in. So took out 3 repeals for three hearses. And let's go. Okay, well, I mean, we have Lorien. So I know this looks like an immediate mull until you realize the Lorien is secretly a kind of a land. It's a little bit of a dubious land, but it is a land. Okay, I was kind of hoping to draw Fire Ice, but it's okay. Yeah, who's next? Actually, I just realized it's who is next, not who's next. So I'm not necessarily sure if they're thinking in terms of Thanos. Okay, so we bounced it. That's an interesting choice. I think it's pretty. I think it's because we're thinking to establish a clock with Brazen Borrower, and just nice to get some value before we do. I'm pretty sure that was our thinking, because it's a little bit different thinking than normal. Now we could have subtletied this, but we have the Dismember, so I think that was our thinking. We remembered it has reach. We almost forgot. I'm going to take a risky risk here and absorb the 3 because we do want to get value out of the subtlety. We're not necessarily expecting to be able to hit that on the way down, but it is nice that we could do that. So this is a little concerning. Double endurance is a little concerning. We might be able to race this though. Actually, I think we are. We are technically racing this. I'm surprised I didn't dash that. Yeah, we got to counter this. And they also made themselves dead by taking 1 damage off of their pain land. Well, not really, because I guess they just didn't attack. What we can do is we can establish a subtlety, and then hopefully, with Force of Negation backup, or just crack a blast out. I guess that works too. Or just play Dismember. I guess there's more than one way to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop or whatever. I was gonna say a different expression, but I don't want to. I've never liked this expression. There's an expression about cats, and let's just say it's kind of animal cruelty, and I don't like saying it. But whatever. All right. Game 3 and the final match we're highlighting. Oh yeah, and by the way, I actually double checked. It looks like this is actually a tournament practice game, so full disclosure, I didn't want anybody to be misled. But in all seriousness, I do see the players in the tournament practice room, in almost unanimously, in my experience, are very much playing to win. The only thing is that you definitely see a much higher amount of experimental decks, like for example this Seismic Assault deck. And to be fair, my deck is kind of falls into that category too. Now this is because of Lorien making keep. But other than the decks being a little bit more experimental in nature, they're all built very much like competently for the most part. I think they're not like jamming Chimney Imp for the memes or something. There isn't just a bunch of players who just like playing terrible cards like Chimney Imp for the memes or something, and they don't care about losing. For the most part, I find that the tournament practice players are playing to win, and they are building their decks competently for the most part, I find. So just take it with a grain of salt, because this is the kind of deck that you're probably a lot less likely to see in the competitive leagues, but I do see it now and then. Still, I have seen this deck before in the competitive leagues, very rarely, but anyway. And you know what? Actually, the 2-mans are pretty much the same exact meta as tournament practice. To be fair, everything I just said, it's the same thing with the 2-mans. They do generally also play to win. Their decks are pretty competently built. And yeah, I just don't think there's actually any discernible difference. I think actually it's just that there isn't that many players in the 2-mans anymore. I think it's very hard to get games. So I actually think, yeah, too bad we didn't. I actually could have subtletied, but I actually think that with unlicensed hearse, maybe we can just keep the Ren 6 under control that way. Their clock is a little bit suspect, but I think they're okay. Yeah, there's another nice thing I like about hers over like Tormod's Crypt is it can contain Ren and 6 to a much greater degree. Interesting. They must really need that land because that was a little bit. I think we'll run the Svyelun out, and now suddenly Subtlety is a lot more. Okay, it is what it is. I'm surprised. They must have a counterspell or something. I don't know what's going on. Okay, that's fine. I guess we can use this land to dismember now. Don't mind if I do. Okay. This is not where we wanted to be though, with an active Ren and 6, but maybe we can still win. It's okay. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, value is value. I want to establish the subtlety, and if I can get some value while doing it, don't mind if I do. They're gonna get Boseiju back, but I think we're gonna want to dismember this. We're gonna do that too. Try to take down the Ren and 6. Alright, that's fine. It is what it is. We could have forced a negation the lightning bolt, but them having to sacrifice the Ren and 6 was a, fairly big game. All right, Hearst I think is a good draw. Yeah, I don't approve of this one. I was kind of mortified here about a Veil of Summer, but thankfully it didn't come to pass. All right, let's get rid of Forgotten Cave. Oh man, another one of these. At least we can get a Xander's Lounge. So we can soften the blow to our Dismember a little bit. Don't mind if I do. Maybe we just get there all the way. We jingle all the way with Brazen Borrower, maybe. I can't help but shake this. I can't shake this feeling that they probably have a lot of lands in their hand. And we're gonna Dismember. It might seem like a little bit risque, but I can't help but feel that we're gonna need to at some point force a Seismic Assault and force pitch Counterspell a Veil of Summer. Yeah, but that may not be the case. Okay, I think this was a concession because the clock stopped, and yeah, the clock stopped, and unfortunately it doesn't record the concession screen, but this was a concession. I'm almost 100% sure about it. Let me just rapid click the, yeah, this was a concession. There's nothing more to see here, and with that, this is a sort of spiritual 4-1. In reality, this was a 3-2 with a tournament practice match at the end to wash out the unfortunate beating we got from Dak Faden. But yeah, I think this was I felt satisfied enough after this where I'm like, yeah, I think this is a good deck. I mean, actually, what was the other deck we lost to? I wonder, is it possible for you to pull this up while I'm recording? It looks like it is. So let me pull up this other. Match. So what was the other deck we lost to here? Just for reporting purposes. Okay, I see a forest here. Oh, Yogg. All right. I'm not sure exactly how this Yogg match went down. I think this one lasted a little while, but I guarantee you, Yawgmoth got resolved, and I was not able to counter it. Or actually, they just beat. Oh man, Orcus Bowmasters. Okay, you know what it is? They just generate too many freaking creatures. I have to hold up counter magic at all times for those Yawgmoths, and then they just end up killing me with the with Bowmasters and what do you call those guys? Strangleroot Geist, and just kind of all their dinky creatures. Like, we don't really have a proper Wrath, so it's like, we could actually deal with their Yawgmoth well enough, but it's all their dinky little creatures that they swarm out on the table, because yeah, those end up getting us. it's actually kind of wild having to deal with both the Yawgmoth and all these creatures. So unfortunately, it is what it is. But all right, yeah, Yawgmoth is probably not a great matchup. Yawgmoth has gotten insane with all these new cards that it's gotten. But anyway, I think I'll leave it at this for now, and hope you all enjoyed. All right, and with that post league wrap up, definitely definitely a little disappointing to take some unfortunate losses, but the games we won felt very impressive in my opinion, and I don't think there's really anything I would want to change. I hope you all enjoyed this this league, and once again, shout out to Bort for getting a 5-0 with this list. Yeah, so that's another thing too that encouraged me. I don't think there's really anything I want to change. Again, Bort only played 2 Ratchet Bombs over 2 Engineered Explosives for availability purposes, so I think that this list is pretty solid. Those losses, I mean, I don't know that there's like much we could really change to make that different, and you know, it's not like just because you win one match, it's not like you need to change everything, you know. I think I'm finally getting to the point where I'm actually trying to settle a bit on certain builds before changing like lots of things constantly. Sometimes you need to settle down a little bit to get a feeling for just like, you know, how the overall core of the deck works, you know. And I did feel like the core here worked very well. So with that, I will bid you all adieu, but I will also give a shout out to the patrons as per the custom. Thank you, Adrian King, Gavin Downard, Daryl, B-Train 4, Savage Owls, Jules Varro, Kevin Roback, Roland Shunenman, S. Robertson, HJCLIU, Sophus Europe, Erwin Lopez, Stanley Franks, Jeff H., Brian H., Ezekiel Smith, Andrew Watts, and Michael Patton. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Oh yeah, and actually maybe before I go, perhaps I should treat you all to what the budget version of this deck looks like. This deck feels like it ratchets up the jankiness by a factor of 10. I don't want to say too much because I want to save what I have to say for the video itself. But let's just say that Secrets of the Key is way better than it looks. It has drawn me a freaking ton of cards, and also its ability to curve out nicely on turn 1 and a turn 2 to crack that clue token. If that was all it is, it would be terrible. But getting 2 clue tokens with the flashback has been very excellent. And the only other thing I will say for now, well, okay, I'll just say Cryptic Command is, if you've ever missed playing Cryptic Command, this card is very sweet, and it's never been cheaper. This card is dirt cheap, at least on Magic Online. I'm not sure on paper. Let me check that out real quick. What does a Cryptic Command cost in paper? Hopefully this doesn't ruin the budget nature of the deck in paper. Okay, so it's like between $8 and $10 approximately in paper. So it's not the most budget card, but it's never been cheaper. I might just pick up some copies just because I think this is the type of card that easily could start seeing play again at some point. But it just happens to be good in this deck because the whole idea of the budget version here is just never to tap out. Literally every single thing has flash or is an instant. And yeah, that includes Dragon Turtle. And yeah, I don't want to say too much yet because again, I want to spoil it for when I actually do the budget video on this. All I will say is I know this card looks terrible, but this card has actually been very good. You know, dodges Lightning Bolt, having like a built-in sort of ice effect on creatures at least. Actually, it has been a lot better than it looks. And yes, I know you can't attack immediately the next turn because it also taps itself down. You'd be surprised. I just wanted a win con that I could play at instant speed that wasn't going to die to Lightning Bolt. I was never ever expecting this card to actually be as good as it is. Needless to say, this is taking the spot of Svyelun in the Sea and Sky deck. I do think Svyelun is better in proper Sea and Sky because we have all the pitch spells. But in a deck like this budget version, where we cannot afford ever to tap out, like ever, because we have no free counter magic, unlike the proper Sea and Sky, because Force of Negation and Subtlety. Subtlety is not too expensive, but Force of Negation is just way too ridiculous, and unfortunately, yeah, that just means basically the pitch spells are off the table because of budget concerns if we're playing a budget version, which means we have to pretty much play everything in instant speed. But it just so happens this card is a lot better of a replacement for Sea and Sky for a pure flash version than you might think. And Suleiman's Trickery, this card is interesting too. Actually being able to counter a spell and make a creature that can chump or just trade with a Ragavan or something, actually better than it looks, let me tell you. Oh man, if I had a nickel, but yeah, this deck is so fun to play. I heard it's very high variance though. Somebody who lost to this deck in one of my leagues tried to replicate it. They actually copied it, I think, card for card, and I think they went 0-3 and then dropped the league, which I'm sure can't happen. But it just so happens that I've actually gone like, I think 4-1 twice and then 3-2. I haven't trophied with it yet. I'm sure I'm getting good variance. One thing is, if I remember correctly, I played a ton of Izzet Murktide. I played a ton of Izzet Murktide with this deck, like a ton. And it does seem like for whatever reason, this deck is very good against Izzet Murktide. I don't know why exactly. I guess Cryptic Command bouncing Murktide is a thing. I guess Dragon Turtle tapping down Murktide was a thing. I don't know what to tell you. I think I faced in one league, 3 out of my 5 games were Izzet Murktide, and I believe I clean sweeped them 3-0. And I think the opponent who was impressed and copied this, but unfortunately ended up going 0-3 after that, was also one of those Murktide opponents. It just so happens that I think this deck is significantly better against Murktide than a lot of other decks. Like Scam is a little more suspect, but I think I beat a Scam deck at least once. To be fair, I might have lost to a Scam like twice maybe, and then won once, which might be acceptable, especially if you're playing a budget deck. All I know is, at least so far, notwithstanding the opponent's misfortune playing the deck, I so far have had a blast playing it, and it's actually been surprisingly good for me. Strangely enough, actually my win rate with this deck, the budget version, has actually been higher than with the proper Sea and Sky deck overall, but I have to imagine that a lot of that is just insane variance in having played I think I've played like a minimum of like 2 Izzet Murktides each league, and one of them even had like 3 or maybe even 4 all in one league. So I don't know why whenever I play this deck, I get paired up against Izzet Murktide, and I think I've established that Izzet Murktide is a good matchup for this deck, but we'll need to run this through more matchups, because unfortunately the metagame is not all Izzet Murktide. Otherwise, this deck would feel almost borderline tier 1 based on my results, which also could just be high variance and me getting lucky against them, but for whatever reason, it has done well for me. Anyway, hope you all enjoy, and let me know just how bad you want to see this budget version. So, all right, take care, everybody.